Hey, hi all, welcome to Script QA. In this particular session, we are going to learn about the next control flow statement, that is the while loop. Okay, now everyone knows about when we should use the loops, right? So based on condition, if you want to run the statement or group of statements again and again, in that case, we are going to use the loop. In previous session, we have learned about the for loop. Okay, so what is the syntax of for loop? So for the for loop, we have to pass the initialization, then condition, and then we have to do the increment and decrement. If you see, all these three things we are doing on single line. Okay, similar thing that you have to do for the while loop as well. Only difference is that these three things will be on three different line. Okay, so this is the syntax for the while loop. Okay, so first you have to do the initialization. Okay, then you have to pass the condition to the while loop, and then you have to write the code, and in that, after the your code is finished, you have to do the increment and decrement. After your code is finished, you have to do the increment and decrement. Okay, if you see, exactly same thing we are doing here, but only the difference is that we are doing on three different lines. So first is the initialization. So let's say I want to do I is equal to, let's say I will initialize the I is equal to 0. So this is called as the initialization. All right, so next I have to provide the condition. So condition can be anything which basically give the true and false. All right, and next thing that you have to do the increment and decrement, maybe I plus plus or I minus minus. Okay, so if you see that syntax wise, for loop and while loop is quite similar, right? Okay, then question might become when to use the for loop and when to use the while loop, right? So if you know the number of iteration, okay, that means how many times your loop is going to execute, in that case for loop is best choice. Okay, for example, if I want to print the number 1 to 100, right, in that case I know that okay, 100 times my loop is going to execute, right? So in that case I know the number of iteration. In that case I will say for loop is the best choice. Okay, now when to use the while loop? Okay, so basically if I don't know number of iteration, how many number of iteration is going to be, right? So in that case I need to use the while loop. For example, if I'm reading something from the file, right, so in that case I don't know, I mean, how many records there in the file, right? So in that case I'm going to use the while loop. Okay, another example is if I'm reading something from the database, right? So in that case as well I don't know, right, how many records available in the database. In that case as well I am going to use the while loop. Okay, so we will quickly jump on Eclipse and we'll see there how to use the while loop. Okay, so let's consider I want to print the number from 1 to 10, right? So in that case, I will, first step, I have to do the initialization. So for that, I will say int I is equal to, let's say 1, because I want to print the number from 1 to 10, right? So after that, I will say while. Okay, in while, I have to pass the condition, which basically gives the true and false, right? So in this particular case I want to print the number from the 1 to 10. While, inside while, I have to provide the condition basically which will give true and false. So I will say I less than or equal to 10. Okay, then I will open the curly braces and I will close the curly braces. So this is the body of the while loop. If you see, this blue highlighted area is the body of while loop. So in this particular body I have to write the code which I want to execute repetitively, right? So I will say system.out.println I, which is basically value of I, right? And after that, third step that I have to do, that is the increment and decrement. In this case my I is initialized to the 1, right? So I have to increment value by 1 at each iteration. So I will say I plus plus, right? So this is basically called as the increment and decrement step. Okay, and let's run this particular program. So it will print the number from 1 to 10. So if you see, it's printing the number from 1 to 10. Right? Suppose if I'm not incrementing incrementing my number, right, each iteration, right? So in that case, my condition will always true, and my loop it will go into the infinity loop, right? So this particular condition will never end, right? So this is called as the infinity loop. Okay, so you have to take care of this increment and decrement. Okay, if you are not providing this, it will be go inside the infinity loop. All right, so this is how we can write the while loop. Okay, so that's it for this particular session. Thanks for watching the video. Please do like and subscribe the channel.